Vamos a ver este video sobre Costa Rica. Dale, vamos a empezar con esto, que es en inglés, pero es subtítulos en español. Entonces vamos a descubrir un poco de la Costa Rica de Gerardo. Dale, que mandamos un gran saludo.
Costa Rica, Costa Rica, go ahead and take a peek. Lush and green and quite unique. Costa Rica, Costa Rica. That's my poem. I hope you liked it.
Este hombre es muy simpático,
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbie. Finally, we
Este hombre es muy... siempre haciendo bromas, me encanta.
are out of Africa and back on the other side of the globe. Get ready for a place where a guy can do this to a crocodile.
Wow.
Let's jump into the flag. Here's where things get a little tricky, because Costa Rica is one of those countries that interchangeably uses both the official and simplified variant of their flags. The simplified version does not have a coat of arms and is just a banner with 5 bands. 2 blue bands, one on top, one on the bottom, 2 whites under the blues, and a double width band of red in the center. Side note, do not get the simplified version of the flag confused with the flag of Thailand. If we were to include the coat of arms is a golden frame containing an illustrated veneer with 2 banners above it saying America Central and the República de Costa Rica. You don't need to speak Spanish to know what those mean. The image contains 7 stars in the sky representing the 7 provinces. Below are 3 volcanoes with cute puffs of smoke coming out of them representing the 3 mountain chains of the country. Engulfing the volcanoes are oceans on either side indicating the bi-coastal position of the country, with merchant ships that even have miniature Costa Rican flags, making Costa Rica once again one of the only few countries.
Wow, Costa Rica sabe muy bien disfrutar del turismo, Ya tienen todo lo más bonito en su bandera. La gente ya sabe lo que puede visitar cuando van.
With a flag of their flag in their flag. I know, in the Afghanistan video I said there were only 2 countries that had that. Look, it was my first episode, I was a little nervous, I didn't get everything right, I was super awkward.
Hey, Paul, let's show him a clip.
No. Which, by the way, makes Afghanistan one of the only 2 countries in the world that has a flag with miniature versions of its own flag on its own flag. Oh, it was so bad. Alright, let's move on. Costa Rica, translated to the rich coast, and quite frankly, unlike some places, this country actually does live up to that name. Côte d'Ivoire, ces plages semblent belles, mais ils ne sont pas faits de voir. 조선 민주주의 인민공 한국 민주주의 북한 진짜? 에이씨, 그래서 네가 원하면. Anyway, Costa Rica is located in the southern portion of the Central American isthmus that connects North America to South America, bordered by Nicaragua in the northwest and Panama in the southeast. Like most Central American countries, except Belize and El Salvador, the country has 2 convenient coasts on the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. From a distance, you would think Costa Rica borders Lake Nicaragua, but Nicaragua was like, nope, I am literally claiming the entire border around the lake and calling it mine, even if I have to draw a narrow 2-mile wide corridor around the south rim. Speaking of which, Costa Rica and Nicaragua had a short dispute over this incredibly small island off the San Juan River, and it ended up going to the international court. The country is divided into 7 provinces, with the capital San Jose located inland in the San Jose province and acts as both a provincial and national capital of the country. Speaking of which, writing a letter or postcard to Costa Rica can be quite the funny ordeal. Many houses don't even have numbers, so you have to locate them by landmark or numerical position, such as 3rd house on the left or behind the gas.
Eso es como Uruguay, ¿verdad? Eso es como Uruguay, ¿verdad? Que la casa no tiene números. ¿Quién lo ha dicho? Hola, Nico, ¿qué tal?
Station by the mango tree. That can literally count as an address. The country has 2 hook-shaped peninsulas on the Pacific, creating the Gulf of Nicoya and the Pavon Bay, ending with the tail of Costa Rica on the shared peninsula with Panama in the Punta Arenas province. Speaking of which, some people will say that the shape of Costa Rica resembles a crab, but I personally think it looks more like a deformed bull with severe scoliosis leaping into freedom. The country has over 30 main islands and hundreds upon hundreds of small islets and rocks, mostly off the coast. However, the most notable island would have to be the Cocos Island, the furthest off claim that Costa Rica inhabits, located about 555 kilometers southwest off the coast in the Pacific. If you want to check out this place, you will literally only be allotted a few hours during the daytime, and then you gotta get out. The biggest reason for this tight restrictive policy is partially for the protection of the high concentration of endemic flora and fauna, but also it's rumored that this place may also be the site of various pirate treasure. Historically, Costa Rica kind of had to gain independence like 3 times, once from Spain, once from the Mexican Empire, which is a whole other crazy story, and finally one last time from the Federal Republic of Central America, in which all these countries used to be one country for like 20 years. Well, kind of. There was this one short-lived country that never quite made it and got absorbed into Guatemala and Mexico. Rest in peace, Los Altos. Also, there's those cool-looking petrospheres created by the Discus people from long ago that archaeologists don't quite know the significance of. Okay, let's move on.
Todo muy interesante.
Okay, so we've discussed the Costa part of the country. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Rica. Costa Rica will blow your mind not only in the flora and fauna composition, but also the nationally administered policies that facilitate the environmental makeup of the country. Last year, they even upgraded the banknotes to depict some of the biodiversity you can find there, and it looks freaking seizure-rific, crazy, insane balls, beautiful-freaktastical. In short, Costa Rica is rich in biodiversity, so much to the point where even though the country makes up less than half of 1% of the Earth's landmass, it hosts over 5% of the entire world's biodiversity. They take their jungles seriously. About a quarter of the entire country is made up of protected national parks, the highest percentage of any country in the world, and in recent years, they've had successfully managed to lower the deforestation to almost zero. On top of that, Costa Rica has set a goal to become the first carbon-neutral country in the world by 2021.
But in the Bhutan video, didn't you say...
Yeah.
Antes del 2021, entonces, ¿qué pasó? ¿Lo lograron o no?
Yes, I know what you're thinking, and
Ahora
yes, I know in
estamos
the
en el
Bhutan video I said that
2021.
Bhutan was a carbon sink nation, but there's a difference between a
El
carbon
video es muy viejo, ¿no? Sí, 2016. hace
sink and a
5
carbon
años.
neutral country. In a nutshell, one absorbs but can still produce carbon, and the other one produces none. Got it? Good. On top of that, Costa Rica effectively banned recreational hunting, although once every so often you get a few underground perpetrators. And on top of that, the country has already achieved around 95 to 99% renewable energy, 80% of which is produced by hydropower. Crazy, right? Costa Rica's landscape is speckled with over 120 volcanic formations, 7 of which are still active, including the
Me
Polis
encantan
volcano,
los
which has one of
volcanos.
the widest craters in the world. Because of all the environmentally conscious actions Costa Rica has taken, the tourism industry has exploded in the past few decades, and with a nearly $2 billion yearly input, Costa Rica is the most visited country in Central America. It's actually kind of funny how the population shifted industries so rapidly. The people here are quite innovative. And it all had to kind of do with what they did after their third independence. Let's discuss that in... Okay, so to kind of get things straight, technically you can refer to someone in Costa Rica as a Costa Rican. However, it's also
Tico.
acceptable to call them either a tico for men or a tica for women. First off, the country has about 4.8 million people and is one of the most politically stable countries in Latin America. When it comes to ethnic makeup, things get a little interesting because they have 3 categories for Caucasian. The whites, the mestizo, and the castizo, which are like a mixture between whites and mestizos.
Castizo.
Still following me? Anyway, altogether, the 3 Caucasian groups make up about 84% of the
Primera vez que
population.
escucho esa
Mulattoes,
palabra.
or half-blacks, make up about 7%, about 3% are Amerindian, 1% black, and the remainder are a mixture of races like Asians, Middle Easterners, and so on. Although the line is a little debatable, with a history of extensive European immigration from places like Germany, England, and the Netherlands, France, and Ireland, in general, Costa Rica is one of the wider Latin American countries.
Why do you always have to label people by race?
Because it's a thing people have and is not necessarily bad to identify with. The Amerindian population are mostly derived from the 8 ethnic groups that inhabit secluded reservations mostly along the central and southeastern regions of the country along the border of Panama. A large portion of the black population lives along the Caribbean coast and are English or patois-speaking descendants of Jamaican and Caribbean immigrants that came in the 19th century. That's the other thing. Yes, Spanish is the official language, but because of the booming tourism sector, especially with the United States, Costa Ricans have one of the highest English proficiencies in Latin America. About 1 out of every 9 adults speaks English fluently enough to hold a general conversation, whereas others can somewhat get the point across. Nonetheless, Costa Rica definitely sets itself apart when it comes to Spanish vernacular. They have their own distinct twang that any Latino would be able to distinguish. 2 words you will most likely find only in Costa Rica are pura vida and mae. Pura vida literally translates to pure life, but is commonly used as a greeting somewhat along the lines of what's up, whereas mae is kind of like buddy or dude. So if you hear someone saying pura vida mae, chances are you may have just witnessed your first Costa Rican. They also have a ton of other words like tuanis, brete, and menudo, which is not this, but we don't have time to get into that. Quick little side note, do not be alarmed if you witness people all over the country walking around carrying machetes. Machetes are a nationwide multi-tool used for everything. It's like the Costa Rican equivalent to duct tape. One thing that really makes Costa Rica stick out like a sore thumb, though, is the fact that they've pretty much avoided general conflict for over 6 decades. The last war they were in was a civil war that ended with them disbanding the entire military in 1948. Although, of course, they still have a police force and special forces and commando units, still, Costa Rica is the largest country in the world to have absolutely no military forces. The military budget was then allocated to the country's education and health services, which is no surprise why Costa Rica has some of the highest education and literacy rates, as well as life expectancy in Latin America, and has adopted a diplomatic neutrality stance in their foreign policy that allows them to intercede well with other neighbors. In 1987, former President Oscar Arias Sanchez was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to eliminate armed conflict in Central America. So they have mountains, remain neutral, have a service-driven economy, are pretty much economically and politically stable. Hey, it's kind of like they're the Switzerland of...
Don't say that!
Oh, let's talk about their...
Eso era lo de Uruguay, ¿no?
Costa
A
Rica
los
knows how to
uruguayos
get
no
along
les
with
gusta
people,
eso.
mostly. They have relations with so many countries in every region of the world, and especially in the Latin world, as they try to act neutral and oftentimes as a diplomatic intercessor for conflicts in the area. First off, have you ever had a cousin that totally looks like you and can be mistaken for your twin? Well, that's kind of like what Panama is. Even though the two have been incredibly close, they did grow up in different households, but nonetheless, they kind of acted as like the links between North and South America. Both countries have developed the same affinity for the US over time, and especially in the 80s when tourists started flocking in by the herds. Nicaragua is probably Costa Rica's biggest competitor. However, even after the island dispute drama, they still kind of get along. Soccer matches get pretty heated though. Costa Rica also recognizes Kosovo as a state, which doesn't sit well with Serbia. Mexico is kind of like the older brother that is like really a lot older. Like the parents had him decades before you were born, and by the time you came out, he kind of already had his own family. When it comes to their best friends, however, Costa Rica would probably say the US. The US is their largest business partner. Half of all imports and exports and tourism come from the US, and 2/3 of its overall foreign investment. Politically, they even follow the same checks and balances format of the US federal government. Nonetheless, China just kind of stepped in and was like, hey, can I build you guys a stadium? In conclusion, Costa Rica is like the pacifist nature guy in Central America who just wants...
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué pasó? Ah, alguien se suscribió al canal, ok, no lo sabía. Ay, perdón, estoy nuevo de eso, estoy nuevo de eso. No sabía que iba a hacer ese ruido cuando alguien se, ¿cómo se dice? Que sigue el canal, Tengo que sacarlo eso, es demasiado ruidoso.
wants you to zipline through his jungles, chill out on the beach, and not fight with him. Please, just don't fight with him. Stay tuned, Croatia is coming up next.
Espero que les haya gustado, Me encantó descubrir más sobre este país que no sabía mucho, Costa Rica, Me encantó.